All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to light a level for GR, and I'm also going to explain the lighting editor because that's what we're going to use to do this. And we're going to talk about some of the specifics about lighting and how the lighting editor actually works. All right, so it should be a lot of fun. First thing you need to do, though, is when you have your map ready, export it. I personally am going to export test level unlit.map, and then I'll have another one as well, test level.map. Generally speaking, I'll let the game read this one. This will be the one that I'm going to end up lighting. The lighting editor likes to have an unlit map file. When you save your map in the lighting editor, you're going to save it over to this one so that the game can read it. That's pretty much how that works. It's not too complicated. So just export one as test level unlit, pretty much. Or your level unlit. And yeah, we're going to replace it just using the standard default export settings here. Click OK, OK, and it should go along and be successful. That's YouTube. That's not what we're doing. All right, so what you need to do is go to your Island Thunders Extra CD or your Island Thunders Extras folder. Look under Tools, Lighting Tool. You're going to see Release Dark Map Maker. We're going to need that. Also, if you haven't done it, blow away your SHT file in here under your level folder. Just a good practice considering the last video I had a crash from it. But so we're going to open up the Release Dark Map Maker. Now here's the trick: when you open this up, don't really move it around and don't resize it and rescale it or enlarge it or nothing. This program really likes to crash for whatever reason. Sometimes it just does. It does weird things. So keep that in mind. What you will need to do is click File and then set your map. So you're going to go to your mods folder, test level, map, test level, and then we're going to open the unlit version. Okay, so test level unlit. So we set our map file. We're going to set our texture directory. Once you load up the map file, usually it goes right to the same folder, but not always. Just pick any texture in there and just double click on it. You're good. You can set your sky as well. Now I'm using M01 Caves sky, so Mission 1 Caves. That's under Mods, Original Missions, and it's going to be under Model. And we got to scroll on down. It's going to be M01 Caves.pob, and that's the actual sky file. You can find, what you're using in your environment file. So M01 Caves.pob. Let me just show you that real quick. So your environment file right here. Test level.environment. This is what we created when we started creating the level. Command map bitmap is m01 caves.rsb, but we're looking for skybox file name, and that's m01 caves.pob. Okay, so we set that. Now we need to set the sky texture directory, and once again it's going to kind of go where it wants. We need to go to original missions mod. We need to go to textures, and now all sky textures are a square quad. They're sky boxes basically, and they're going to have up, down, left, right tagged in them somewhere. And I think I passed it already. Did I? No, maybe I didn't. So right here you'll see under M01 we have back, front, left, right, etc., etc. I'm going to open the up one. I don't know if picking any different one would matter, but we're going to use up. So M01 caves up. The RSP. Okay, and now we should be able to click start, and hopefully we don't crash. All right, now we started. We can move around using the keyboard arrows. So forward, left, or rotate left, rotate right. We can use shift to speed things up a little bit while doing that. Page up and page down will allow you to go up and down. Now you'll notice something kind of quacky here is if I go through these walls, everything kind of disappears. Oh, now I got out into the room. Okay. A lot of times you'll go through a wall and everything just disappears and it never comes back. Sometimes it will flick back. The lighting editor can be a little bit challenging sometimes. So just pay attention to that. Let's talk about how to get around in it. So we can go to edit. We can select different rooms. So we're in room 1 right now. We can go to 101. And we can, you can move that way. That's pretty quick and easy to do. You'll see I'm back in the room real quick. You can also navigate by different lights. You can select different lights here when we start creating them. Pretty useful information, and that'll just help you get around a little bit more, a little bit quicker. You can see when I went through that wall, there's nothing out here now. So we're going to light this interior scene real quick. Normally speaking, every room is going to end up using a dark map. So you can just come in here and you can click, let's see where it's at. You could do edit room, edit rooms, edit room data, right? Or you can do room, edit all room data. Okay. Or you can just right click here in this scene. And what we're going to do is make GR use dark maps. And this is really what's going to start creating shadows and everything. And then we're going to do shadows on for this room. This texel size here down at the bottom, you can fudge that around a little bit, but it's really not going to, it's not going to make a big difference, to be honest. So just check those two and then click OK. And you'll notice everything goes dark. And the reason it goes dark is because there's no lighting. I know down here on the bottom there's a floor, so what I'm going to do is just double click. Left click, double click. I could create a point light or anything else, but here's something I want you to notice is that in real life, almost every situation, there's going to be some kind of ambient light. There are times like no moon lights in really dark buildings, there's no light, but generally speaking, ambient light almost always exists. And for this example, we're inside, so I'm going to change the ambient light color to, like a mid-tone or maybe a little bit darker. And I don't want to add really any blues or nothing to it for this interior scene. That's just what I personally want. But a lot of times you can get away with adding a little bit of blue or greens or whatever you want it to look like, just really faint amounts of color. And so I just want it to be gray though, so I'm going to click OK. And this is going to add that ambient light to that room. And now you can see that it lights everything, no shadows or anything, and it's just ambiently lit a little bit brighter, which is real nice. But we can also add a point light. So we can add a point light. We'll add that in. Let's move this point light around. You could just click on it and grab it and move it, but you can also constrain it to X, Y, or Z. I know I just want to move it up, so I'm going to move it up and put it right there. You can see it's not very bright. It is working, but it's not very bright. You can double click on it. It'll allow you to come in here and edit it, but you might end up creating a new light, so you might want to just right click on it instead. We're going to change it to about 10. Okay, so now we can light that whole corner there. And so now you can see that this whole room's pretty well lit. It's not too bad. Let's go outside here, and I think going through the door it switches us over to the next room. This outdoor area is still unlit. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click and create a sun. And we're just going to click OK. We're not even going to modify this much. And I just want to use my middle mouse button. Wait, sorry, not my middle mouse button. Come on now. Yeah, it should be my middle mouse button. Oh, I'm constrained right now. Sorry, that's why. I'm constrained. What you want to do is just turn it back to none, and you can kind of get it to go up in a direction. Okay. And you'll notice that even though we added this, nothing's really occurring. It's not looking real good. That's because we got to right click. We want to make sure we're using dark maps and shadows on for this room as well. And then it should start generating some kind of lighting texture. Also, you're still going to end up with these dark faces, so you have to add an ambient light. So every room is going to end up almost always getting an ambient light. And I'm going to make this one a light blue. Like a light grayish blue. And so I have like this naturally kind of sky color coming down or whatever. Click OK. Let's see how that looks. And you'll see that worked out just fine. So now all those black faces are gone. And we have just nicely lit environment. And it's looking pretty good. And even inside here, it's looking pretty decent. Now, the reason these spheres are in here, we're going to talk about how the lighting editor or the lighting system in GR actually works. But before we actually talk about that, let's just go ahead and file. We are going to save the lighting solution. If you plan on just working on the lighting and not redoing any parts of the level, it's really beneficial to save the lighting solution. So I'm going to save this in test level, map, test level. And I usually save it under lighting.dmp. or the DMP file is what's generated, but just save it under lighting. I'll replace it because that's an older test I was doing. And so we're pretty much done here, except we got to save the map. So we'll go save the map now. And instead of saving it under test level unlit, which it won't let you do anyways, just save it under test level.map. And you want to make sure you check all lights always on. There's really no reason to use bank 1 or bank 2. Everything's pretty statically lit. So, and GR doesn't really have dynamic lights all that much. It does in some situations, but it's kind of weird. Anyway, so that's it for the lighting editor. We are done with that. Let's go ahead and jump into game now. All right, now you might jump into game trying to see how everything looks in game, and it might look something like so. You can see that some of the lighting is pretty faceted. So when I was talking about building levels originally, I always said, sometimes you can't force GR to do things that you want it to do. This is a prime example. When you're creating a lighting map, it breaks down everything by the face pretty much. And it's going to light it accordingly. And as a result, it makes everything look faceted. That's just how it works, and that's how it functions. So this big sphere might be something, if you're doing a sphere of some type, might be something you want to do to make it look a little bit better, perhaps, instead of having it look all crazy like that. That's just the idea behind that. You can see the ambient light in here, plus the light in the corner. Lights these characters really well. They look really good under this kind of lighting condition. I really like it. It's looking good. Let's take them outside and let's see what happens. And they should all filter through here. And you can see that the ambient light outside is a little bit brighter, and the sunlight helps make them a little bit brighter as well. So they're looking real good outside now as well. We, of course, can make them brighter or darker depending on how we set that ambient light and how we set the sunlight. They kind of play off one another. All right. But overall, I think you could make a level at this point, and as long as it was a single floor, the only thing left to do would be to create a command map for the most part, or some doors or things like that. But whatever the case may be. So let's talk about how this lighting editor is actually working. And we're going to open up the files it generates. It generates these dark maps. And if you take a look here, I open these up, we got two different dark maps. We got the one for the, actually, I'm not even sure what the difference is between the dark maps. I really don't know why it generates two. But they look pretty much like the same thing, more or less. And what it's doing is it's breaking everything down by the face, like I was saying. And you can see here, big pieces of land and terrain will break down as just one polygon. And it'll give it more space so that it can, light appropriately in those areas. Whereas, that sphere is broken down into these tiny little dots everywhere. And it's really not that useful. As far as I'm concerned, I think it makes things look pretty bad. But I tried doing more advanced things like bypassing this lighting system to see if I can use my own light maps and my own baking and whatnot. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that happen. It doesn't seem like it's possible. And that's what it is. There is one absolute way you can kind of bypass it, and that's by not lighting the level and then baking all your textures. But it doesn't light the characters. It's weird. So all in all, this is the method you're going to have to use, more or less. Some things in GR you just can't force it to do, and this is one of them. Fortunately, though, you can keep this in mind and try not to create cylindrical or spherical objects as much, or very smooth, concave kind of surfaces. Use blockier models. Use more squared up, kind of cubes. And if you do that, you should be able to add, not only will they be lower poly, but you should be able to add a lot more items. And when you add more items, in theory, now I don't know because I haven't added a ton of items to the lighting editor, but you should be able to light all of those pretty well. And just the added amount of geometry, just the added amount of extra stuff that's low poly even, should make it look a lot nicer. So it'll give the eye something more to grasp onto, something more to look at. Anyways, that's it for this tutorial. I just wanted to explain kind of how the lighting tool worked and how to get going in it. It's really not that hard. It's a lot of fun in my opinion. Just don't resize the window, and save often, save your lighting solution often, because it will crash on you randomly sometimes. It's just been like that since day one. It's still like that today. It's never changed. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.